I want to thank you all for being here. Most importantly, Lisa, Wendy, and Jenna Lisa, especially after your powerful comments this morning. And thank you for that. Congressman, it's great to have you both again back here. I don't think the last time we spoke that we thought we'd be here in this moment on the verge of having the president sign this and it becoming law here in Washington.
Things accelerated quickly. Things don't move forever in Washington, D.C., and then all of a sudden they do, and that's what happened.
But 427 to 1 over in the House. It was unanimous in the Senate. Congressman Massey, for you, as the Republican who led this, obviously bipartisan, but as the Republican who led this, what do you say to those members who for months refused to put their names on your discharge petition and then wound up voting for this today?
All that's necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And we had good men doing nothing for 5 months. And really, our speaker was disparaging our legislation for 5 months. He ended up voting for it. And he could have saved us all a lot of trouble. He could have brought justice to the survivors here 5 months sooner if he just brought the bill to the floor.
Justice could have been brought 5 months sooner. I mean, there was one member, Clay Higgins, who voted against it. Have you spoken to him or heard why exactly he was opposed to this when every single other member of the House voted for it?
No, Thomas tells me that he thought it was hypocritical for Speaker Johnson to be saying it's a bad bill, and then suddenly telling everyone to vote for it. But the important things here is the survivors. I mean, they had to come to the Capitol twice, once on September 3rd, when the story was dying, when the Speaker had shut down Congress, and they really caught the nation's attention. That gave us momentum. Look, we had to overcome the president. We had to overcome the cabinet. We had to overcome the speaker. We had to overcome the Congress being shut down. We had to overcome them not swearing in the 218th member of Congress. And the only reason it happened is that the survivors came twice, and then they came again today, and the powerful stories that they told. And the president ultimately saw that he was going to lose 50, 60, 70, even more votes. And he said, look, I don't want to do that. I'm going to sign it. He should have the survivors there when he signs it. That's the one thing I really think is important, because the President of the United States should acknowledge what happened to these women and how they were raped, how they were abused. This is not a hoax. That would be such a powerful statement. And him saying that this Epstein class needs to be held accountable, they need to go.
Jenna Lisa, you're shaking your head yes when Congressman Khanna is saying that the president should have you and the other survivors there when he signs this bill.
He owes us that much. He owes us an apology, for sure. And I think that would be one way of showing some remorse for this drawn-out process that didn't need to be.
And you don't see this in a political way. I was listening to you this morning. You said you voted for President Trump, actually, but your plea was to stop making this about him and to essentially start making it about y'all.
Yeah, I mean, he really ran his campaign on this. This is why I voted for him. This release of these files has been so important to me for so long that when he ran with that, I really had some hope that someone was going to do something about it, no matter what the motive was, right, behind it, that he was going to release them and so solidarity with us. But then he completely flipped. And I mean, he was even working with our lawyers and stuff. So it was really hard to go from helping us to completely turning on us and then calling it a Democratic hoax when he knew it wasn't. So he thought it was just a political play, and I think that was wrong, and I think that added fuel to the fire against both parties and where it didn't need to be.
Wendy, do you think that what happened today on Capitol Hill and what the congressmen here have been fighting for helps put survivors back at the forefront of this instead of politics being at the front of this?
I think it's our best attempt yet, yes. And we are trying. I think it today shows us that we are being seen and we're being heard. And if we can keep that momentum, then I think that's yes.
Lisa, how are you feeling? You've obviously been very outspoken about this and talked about how important this transparency is for you as well. Do you feel like you're on the verge of finally getting that transparency?
I actually do feel that way. I started speaking out just because I wanted to stand up for other survivors that have gone through the same pain that we have, but couldn't find their voice. So I was trying to have the courage and the bravery to stand up there to have that voice for them. And just like Wendy said, it just feeling validated, feeling seen, feeling heard. That's what we really wanted, was to stand up there and say, this happened to us, but what are we going to do now? And it's been a few months. It's been tough. It's not easy to speak out about something of this magnitude. It just really isn't. But we feel good about it now. We've been really just excited all together when we got the news.
Well, and a big question is what happens now. Obviously, people really didn't expect this to go through the Senate as easily as it did, passed with unanimous consent is the plan. President Trump said he'll sign it already. Do you have concerns, Congressman, that the Justice Department's investigations that he's ordered into the Democrats who were named in these emails last week could be used as a justification for not releasing everything that the DOJ has?
Well, first of all, what's going to happen next? The legislation gives the executive branch only 30 days to produce these files. And if they redact anything, they've got 15 days to explain and justify any redactions. So we drafted this legislation so that if it did pass, things would be on a fast track. And it is true that if they start investigations in one sort of silo of area of these Epstein files, they could block or delay. It won't delay it forever, but they could delay releasing those files there. But here's the thing, there are 1,000 victims and there are so many perpetrators. They can't open enough cases to block all of the Epstein files and to protect all of these perpetrators. So even if they do these, what seem to be partisan investigations, that's another thing that bothers me about the announcement the president made is he named Democrats and things that he was going to investigate. These survivors are not partisan. They don't belong to one party, and the perpetrators aren't either. And so this shouldn't be about political divides. So I hope that was sort of a bluff, and I hope that the DOJ will release all the files. But even if they start investigations, they don't have enough investigators to block all the Epstein files.
Do you think it's a bluff?
Well, here's the good news when he signs the bill. He no longer is responsible. I mean, if he was trying to protect friends or donors, he could just say, look, my hands are tied. I have nothing to do with it. The Congress has passed this law. I'm not doing anything. And it's actually justice career officials who have to release the files. And they are going to be subject to a criminal prosecution or contempt of Congress if they don't, whether it's Trump or a future administration. So that's why this law is so powerful. And it actually can, if there was pressure on Donald Trump from his friends or donors or others, he can just say, look, my hands are tied. It's the Congress that's acted. So I do think it's going to lead to a release of a lot of the files.
Given how much the president tried to fight this, as he's on the verge of signing it, do you think he deserves credit for this tonight?
Well, people ask me, did he damage his image by what he did this week? I think he actually improved his image by what he did this week, and he has the potential to do that even more. He could invite the survivors to the White House for the signing. He could listen to their stories, and he could even preemptively release documents well before that 30-day deadline. So I do think when he told the MAGA base, you're no longer my supporters if you still want these documents released, he damaged himself. But he mended that a little bit this week.
Jenna Lisa, how do you see that? Because one thing that the House Speaker Mike Johnson was saying was actually that they were worried that this bill would create more victims if it passed as it is written now, because other people will be named. They believe people may be falsely smeared as a result of this coming out. As someone who, as you spoke today so candidly about being, in the 9th grade, and you showed your picture of how young you were when all of this started, how do you view that?
Well, I don't know. Like, these politic things are so, I really don't know. I just want these, I think this is the right way to go about it. I don't think anything wrong with it. I think we've waited too long for the files and that we just need to get them out. So I don't have an issue as a survivor at all with this bill. I don't think any of us that have stood up, I don't think what he thinks could be smearing to someone else. I mean, a little bit of embarrassment because you hung out with the wrong person. I think we've suffered enough embarrassment by having to put ourselves out there. So, I mean, take the little hit if you have to. If you didn't really have anything wrong doing, then I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Yeah, and also it doesn't really make sense either, because you can't really smear a name because there's so much evidence within the files that I don't think it's even possible. I think it's going to be pretty accurate.
And as far as adding new victims or creating new victims, if the bill or the process is followed like I believe or interpret, then that investigation will be done and it'll be determined whether that is a real victim or not. And then that victim can pursue legal actions or not. That, we can't force somebody to hold. Nobody came to me and said, you have to go against Epstein, you have to. So then it's on them. So I think that, and it could create more victims that are too scared to come out because they think that there's no proof. And we just found the proof for you to say your truth. And that through the investigation will maybe prove that there are other victims out there.
What recourse do you have if the administration doesn't release what it has? What will you do as the two who led this charge and were the originals that are the reason we're here tonight?
Well, as Rose said, there are criminal penalties if they don't follow the law. And that's the recourse that we would follow. We undertook a very steep hill, a steep climb to get this done. There have been subpoenas, there have been resolutions, there's been an oversight committee. Those are all sort of Mother May I requests to the administration. We decided to do this as a law, which means it has to pass both chambers and even be signed by the man who was opposed to it. At least be presented to him. He could have always vetoed it. And because we're going to overcome all three of those hurdles, our recourse is legal now. These people could eventually go to jail for not releasing these files.
What does it say that we're even here tonight? I mean, because we have spoken so many times about the improbability of this happening. I know you had done the math about how
4%,
often a discharge petition ever makes it through. It's incredibly rare. I mean, you two are very seasoned officials here in Washington. This is not somewhere where even a week ago it was clear that this was happening.
I didn't think it was going to happen. But you know what? The survivors are showing us the way forward, not just on Epstein, but maybe for this country. They took an enormous risk. I mean, the people in those files are extremely wealthy. They're powerful. They're obviously ruthless. They're vindictive. These survivors have been abused before, and they're going on national television and telling their stories, knowing that those files are going to be released, and these people may have incredibly vindictive motives afterwards. And they did it as human beings, and they did something that has brought not just Thomas and I, who had a friendship together, but people like Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. I would never have dreamed I would be working with them. And what they're showing is that if we start to approach things with courage and humanity, then we can actually get things done in this country in a way that the Congress has not been able to do for many, many years.
Jenna Lisa, is that how you felt as you were there today, sharing your story and showing pictures, which I thought was really powerful that a lot of you did today, of when you were a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's and became a survivor, of just how young you were, to remind people of that, the impact of that?
This is the first time I feel like that we've all are on a united front of like what is happening and that we want justice in the right direction. It was so important to share that photo of us when we were younger, because I think when people see us on camera and who we are now, that they forget that that's who we were then when it actually happened. And now I'm sitting here 20-something years later, and I have a kid the same age that I was in that photo. And I think that is the tone that people need to remember is we're not just up here fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for other survivors. And these powerful people are still doing these things. Don't think that they're not. They are. They think they're untouchable, and they'll do what they have to do to continue their horrific crimes. And we see that.
Wendy and Lisa, do you feel like you're getting justice now in this moment?
In this very moment, yes, but it's fast fleeting.
I know it felt really good today, right?
Yeah.
We sat with the Women's Caucus, Democratic Caucus, and the Republicans together.
Yeah, that was a really, really powerful moment because it has felt for a lot of this process that the Republican Party has been very quiet. Very few have had the guts to stand loud and proud on this situation. And so to have those women come in and speak with us and have that type of support and to see both parties together on something is very powerful because our country has been so divided for so very long, and it's just horrific to watch. So to see those beautiful moments that the public didn't get to see, and that was personal and private, and to be with the Democratic Women's Caucus as we found out that the Senate had passed it. I mean, I'm sure there will be photos floating around, but it was the first time in a long time that we had some happy tears. Not
we were
such
all
sad.
together.
Yeah.
And we were all together. It couldn't have been more a beautiful moment, truly.
That was validation for us.
Yeah.
That was the moment that we
that we
felt
might
seen
just
and
have
heard.
this, right?
Jenna, Lisa, Wendy, Lisa, thank you so much for being here. Congressman, you as well for joining us multiple times and obviously leading on this. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for your support.